Hi everyone, I'm Miss Bailey and I'm with the Boys and Girls Club of Metro Los Angeles, and welcome to DIY STEM. In today's DIY STEM activity, we will be exploring climate change. Now that's a really big word, but have you heard of it before? Climate change. Can you maybe think about what that means, what you think it means? So let's break it down. Climate is like the weather, but instead of just day by day, we look at weather patterns over months, years, sometimes even 100 years at a time. Now that's climate, the weather, but long term. Now we have change. That means something is different than the way it used to be, right? So if we put those two together, the weather changing, essentially, that's what climate change is. And we are going to be exploring climate change at its most severe or most drastic point, which is the Arctic regions. The Arctic regions are the North Pole and the South Pole, like Antarctica. Now, when you think of these places, what kind of images or senses come to mind? I think of it being really cold, lots of snow and ice, maybe it being like really windy too. What kind of animals do you think live in these types of areas? I think of polar bears, I think of fish, I think of narwhals and seals too. Yeah, those are all great examples. So right now, unfortunately, the Arctic regions are getting too warm. Now, what do you think that means? Well, we'll be exploring this today in our science experiment. Let's see what we need for today's experiment.
For today's experiment, I'll be using ice, some cold water, 2 plastic containers, and a smaller plastic container because I don't have Play-Doh today, some tape, and a little plastic toy that's okay to get wet. So in our 2 plastic tubs, we're going to make one the North Pole and one the South Pole. So the one with the South Pole has Antarctica, so we have to make some type of solid to represent the land. I'm using a small little Tupperware container, but if you have Play-Doh, you could use that too. On the North Pole side, there is no land up there, so we're just going to fill it up with these big ice cubes that I have. And we're going to put a little bit of ice on our Tupperware or Play-Doh to represent the ice over Antarctica. And it's okay if your ice spills, as long as you clean up your messes. So I'm going to load up the North Pole with all kinds of different ice cubes. And now we're going to add water. You should be using cold water, and you should fill your containers out with about the same amount of water. I'm filling my containers with about 1 inch of water. And I forgot to film it in this clip, but you're going to use the washi tape or whatever kind of tape you have to tape where the water level is. I'm using the top edge of the tape to mark where the current water level is before the ice melts. And here you can see the before, that's Antarctica. This is the North Pole with my little plastic car penguin that I'm pretending it to be. If you have Arctic animals, that'd be better. And now we're gonna wait to see if it melts. Alrighty, now we can make our observations. The ice has melted. How does this affect the animals? How does this affect the water level? So let's look at the water level. Let's see how much it's risen compared to before.
Alrighty everyone, thank you for setting up this experiment with me. It may take a few minutes or maybe an hour or two for your ice to fully melt, but I want you to watch what happens as the ice melts and what happens to the water level as it melts. Where does that water go? Now you're probably thinking, Miss Bailey, how does this affect me in Los Angeles? I'm nowhere near the Arctic regions. I've never met a polar bear in my life. Well, those oceans that the ice melts into is connected to all the oceans that we live by, like the Pacific Ocean. So if the ocean rises, there could be potential flooding or potential impacts on coastal communities. Like if you've ever gone to the beaches could look a little different if all the ice is melted in the Arctic. Alrighty, boys and girls, I hope I've inspired you to learn a little bit more about climate change today, and we'll see you in our next experiment. Bye, scientists.